This episode is brought to you by the Chevy Silverado. According to J.D. Power, Chevy trucks have won more new vehicle quality awards than any other brand. But champions don't stop. They keep moving forward. And that's what the Chevy Silverado is all about. To learn more, visit Chevy.com. For J.D. Power 2022 U.S. award information, visit jdpower.com/award.
Empire. How a crowd interacts in stadium. There's data for that.
So I do think that we're seeing, trend-wise, the new venues are certainly making a difference. And it might not even be with the home team fans. I think a lot of the new venues are being built. They think that it's going to rally their fan base and that everybody's potentially going to start coming out in masses as well. But it really is bringing in a lot of opposing team fans.
That's Rachel Goodger, Chief Revenue Officer for CrowdIQ, where teams are studying how to give more of what fans want. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. You are being watched, which is modern and a little off-putting, but in the case of CrowdIQ, purposeful for teams to learn about how you like to spend your time in stadium. Our guest this week is Rachel Goodger. She is the Chief Revenue Officer of CrowdIQ. It's a company built by FanCam, and they are looking into how a crowd engages and what their habits are in stadium. Hey, Rachel, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Bram?
I'm great. All right, tell me a little bit about what you guys do. What is CrowdIQ?
That's a great question. So CrowdIQ, we combine high-resolution gigapixel photography with best-in-class computer vision and basically provide our partners with actionable insights on the composition and behavior of their crowds. The easiest way to say is anything that you and I can deduce from a still image, we can train a computer to detect. So anything from what a fan's wearing, if they're in a certain team's merchandise or jersey, to approximate age or gender, whether they're in their seats or even to a certain extent potentially where they're looking.
I got to tell you, it's a little creepy, not hugely creepy, but a little bit. How do you so just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, we do get that a lot. That's oftentimes the first impression. I will, start out by saying we don't do facial recognition.
Okay.
I can't tell you who somebody in the crowd is. In order for us to do that, you need to have somebody's face and then another image of their face and the name tied to that face. It is recognizing someone. In this instance, I almost call it the fancy intern. A computer can do it way faster than you and I can, but I know we've worked with a lot of teams who said they would literally have index and count, section by section.
Huh.
Okay, we think this is a kid. We think this is an adult. We think, this is a fan of our team. This is a fan of the opposing team. And they would go through section by section and just count with binoculars from the press box. That's essentially what we are doing. We have photos of each section, and instead of the intern or you and I having to go through and count 50, 60, 70,000 fans, we have the computer do it in a second.
Got it. Okay. So, since you mentioned it, I'll bring it up because I just want to hear what your opinion is of it because it's gotten in the news lately. Facial recognition technology, it is being used. The New York Times did a big piece about how it's being used by the New York Knicks, which is its own set of interesting issues. But as you since you are in this realm and you are learning about fans and you're identifying at least certain facets of who they are, how do you view facial recognition technology being used at sporting events at some point?
I mean, I think it's probably the future at some point, but it's not the space that we are in. And when it comes to facial recognition, I think we're in kind of a gray area now where places are potentially doing it without fans' permission. And I mean, our just stance on that is it's wrong. There is a time and a place. I mean, you've got Clear in the airports, but it's a place where fans are opting into having their face scanned and saying, this is me. If there's not an opt-in, if there's not permission, I don't think there's, really a reason to be doing it outside of a potential security or safety risk, which of course, you look at the government in certain areas where TSA, where they might be doing that. But in a sports venue right now, maybe not the time and place.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about what you are trying to figure out about fans. All right. So if I would imagine that a team could just look at sales at concessions and have an idea of how much merchandise or food was sold. Are you learning in that aspect differently in providing some kind of information to teams about how their fans are consuming in the stadium?
For sure. I mean, I think there's a big difference between what fans are buying and then what they are potentially actually wearing. We do have a partner where we break down every single game, not just the jersey color with the fans, but the specific one. You know, it's this jersey color with this number color, and vice versa. And we did have one NFL partner who picked their home team jersey color based on this information, knowing the popularity of what fans are wearing to the venue itself. But I think you can see a lot of new information when you start overlaying things like the merchandise analysis on top of demographics. What is Gen Z wearing compared to boomers? Do female fans differ from male fans, which we often see? You know, female fans tend to not be wearing team licensed hats in any way, shape, or form. Usually it's 5-6% of the crowd that's wearing hats on the female side. So how do teams maybe target these fans to purchase more of that specific item, or maybe they need to modify their merchandise to provide something towards that demographic. Maybe they aren't wearing and buying that that piece of merchandise because they haven't had anything that's been made for them.
Are you surprised by these results? I mean, you find out some things about fan bases that I'm sure the teams are going, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, surprised oftentimes. I think the biggest thing that we've seen over the past 5 or so years is the age of fans in baseball being on average 10 years younger than the data that teams have and the ticket data. And I think a big part of that is all these teams are basing decisions off of their ticket data and their season ticket data. But the ticket buyer isn't the only person that enters the venue. If, you know, dad takes his 3 kids to the game, that demographic is not 45 or 55. It's going to be skewing way younger. And obviously ticket data isn't provided on kids and under 18. So if we can tell you there's approximately 10,000 kids in the ballpark tonight, that's going to make a really big difference on what your demographic breakdown looks like.
Okay. And then you are focused obviously on the in-game experience by giving this information back to the teams. Baseball's a very, very good example to do with this. I think the television ratings would probably tell a very different story about the demographic of who is watching baseball games, but you are maybe presenting that this is something that young kids are taking part in, whether dragged by their fathers who love baseball or are young fans. So what are actionable items in a game day experience that teams and you are thinking about as you try to figure out who the audience actually is?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is just relaying this information, back to sponsors and being able to have conversations with your sponsors saying, okay, we're 35, we're not 45. Does that make a difference in the way that you advertise in venue or the activations you want to provide to fans? Does it change in between each inning? Obviously, baseball has so much going on in between each inning. Does it modify that experience? Same thing on the NFL side. When you're looking at halftime shows, we've got something called crowd flow. So these images are captured not just once, but about every 15 minutes. And we had a team ask us, okay, can you tell us how our different generations move, our Gen X, our Gen Z, our Gen Y, our boomers move throughout the stadium? Because we have a theory that the younger demographic is staying in their seats at halftime. They're not going to the bathroom. They're not buying beer. So are they hanging out? And should we modify our halftime show based on this information? Because, all right, our 40-year-old fans are standing in the bathroom line or getting a beer, but our 20 or 15 or 16-year-old fans, they're still sitting in their seats. So why are we, doing this at halftime versus this? So there's a lot of different things that you can do, on a high level, but then getting more granular too, seeing if certain ticket promotions are working. We've seen with some teams that they've got their family section, but it's not family sitting in the family section, it's college kids, because it still is the cheapest ticket, and that's where you get a free hot dog. So
right.
do you need to modify your messaging a little bit if you're trying to target more families, or could you, potentially target even more college age kids and increase the amount of fans in that demographic that are there with the right messaging, because obviously they want to attend and they want to buy the ticket at that price.
This episode is brought to you by the Chevy Silverado. According to J.D. Power, Chevy trucks have won more new vehicle quality awards than any other brand. But champions don't stop. They keep moving forward. And that's what the Chevy Silverado is all about. To learn more, visit Chevy.com. For JD Power 2022 U.S. award information, visit jdpower.com/award.
This episode is brought to you by Chalk and Dog, which brings together the vast experience and expertise of two of the brightest agencies in media, sports, wagering, and gaming. With deep roots in the UK and the US, the agency offers expert guidance in everything from market entry to market expansion for startups as well as established global brands, powered by best-in-class communication and creative experts. Chalk and Dog has vast international experience and delivers results-oriented, tailor-made solutions for B2B and B2C organizations. Have you run into teams are literally like, what are they? Halftime's still halftime. What are they? It's a certain amount of time. There's only so much time to do whatever you want to do. They're changing what? The act? Or they're changing something that would maybe be more appealing to the demographic of people who are actually going to sit there and maybe pay attention to it?
I mean, I think it's all of the above. The big thing is that halftime shows, especially if you look at the NFL, the cost of those varies drastically. I went to the AFC Championship game on Sunday night, and Fat Joe was the halftime entertainment. I'm guessing that cost. I'm sure that the NFL helped, with being the AFC Championship, but I'm guessing that also cost the Chiefs a pretty penny. But did Fat Joe perform as well as the dog that chases the frisbee, across the field?
Yeah.
Potentially, more fans may have stayed in their seats for that at, I don't know, a tenth of the cost. So how do fans kind of react to the halftime entertainment, and can it affect the team's bottom line and how they're spending?
Fat Joe does make the CBS telecast at some point. That dog better do something pretty darn amazing to make the CBS telecast. So there's a lot that goes into all this stuff, for sure.
Of course, there is that. No, that's a great point.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what else are you finding out about demographics these days? Is there anything that you can kind of share that's happening around the country that you're seeing as trends of fandom?
Yeah, I think in general, from a demographic perspective, fans are younger than teams think, and I think a big part of that is the ticket data. And oftentimes the oldest fan in the group is buying the ticket, and that's the information that these teams have. I think another big piece is our merchandise analysis, knowing what percentage of the crowd is potentially the home team versus the away team. We did have one partner who came to us and said, we have a massive list of emails that we've received from transferred tickets. All these fans bought transfer tickets. We have email addresses. We don't know who they are, if they're a fan of our team or the opposing team. And so they're able to give us the list of, here are all the seats that had transferred ticket fans in them. Can you tell us if they were wearing our merchandise or the opposing team merchandise? And we can segment those email lists, potentially even email the opposing team fans when we play their team again and say, okay, we have single game tickets for you. Buy these. And stop bombarding opposing team fans with season ticket messaging that they're just going to unsubscribe from because it's not even their team.
Don't tell the P1 fans that you are emailing the opposing team fans to even show up for the single games. They don't want to hear it. They never want to hear it.
No one wants to hear it. But when it comes down to it, everybody just wants their stadium to be full.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about that, because this is perception stuff. Like you had said that baseball has this perception it's an older sport, but what you're seeing is actually a lot of younger people are going to the stadium. How they're getting there maybe is in question, but at least they're going and they're attending all of this stuff. It just appears perceptually that more away fans are going to games in general across the country. Are you seeing a trend of that traveling to or making it a purpose to go to your favorite team's game in a different stadium? Is that happening on a larger scale?
I think we're seeing it, but it depends certainly on the sport. We're definitely seeing it in the NFL because you have 8 games and fans are going to travel for that. When you look at potentially, the NHL where there's 40-something games, I don't know if it's as rare or as much of a treat to potentially travel to an opposing team, but that's where the venue comes into play. We have 8 partners in the NFL, obviously a lot of different venues from indoor to outdoor all across the country. The new fancy venues in the shine, fans travel and they show up at those places in mass versus other areas. We certainly don't see it be as much of an impact. So I do think that we're seeing, trend wise, the new venues are certainly making a difference. And it might not even be with the home team fans. I think a lot of the new venues are being built. They think that that's going to rally their fan base and that everybody's potentially going to start coming out in masses as well. But it really is bringing in a lot of opposing team fans.
Yeah, I am the voice of the Washington Commanders. We went to Las Vegas last year. It was overrun with people in burgundy and gold. And obviously everybody there was telling me, this is every week with us, that like everybody wants to travel into it, but at least Vegas is a destination spot. You're seeing this across the board just with new venues when they pop up, that is a draw for opposing fans to want to go just see them and experience them.
New venues, and then I think it's multiplied when it's new venues in a shiny place.
Right.
Vegas, LA, these beautiful. It's always going to be Dallas and AT&T Stadium, just because it's AT&T Stadium, and it is the Cowboys, of course. So the team certainly makes a difference, but it is a trend that we're definitely seeing. The Vegas is not a partner of ours. Would love to work with them because that's such an interesting dynamic there, and it's interesting to see how I think ownership groups and front office staff deals with that. How do you deal with the fact that home team advantage is potentially not home team advantage because of your location or because of your shiny new stadium? Fans want to be there, whether it's your fan or the opposing team.
Okay, I'll leave you with this. What are your blind spots? What do you want to learn about fans that you don't know yet that you're trying to improve through technology?
I think a big thing is just using our data and overlaying it with our partners' data more. We really do have a holistic coverage of the bowl. We don't touch the concourses. You've got the wait times and the Armored Things of the world who monitor the concourses and the lines there. For us, our expertise really is the bowl area. But our data alone, while very interesting, becomes incredibly valuable when you overlay it with your other data sources. For example, the team has their Ticketmaster data. They know the amount of fans that have scanned into the venue. If section 100, you have 90% of fans that have scanned in, but with our data, you can see at kickoff, only 60% of them are in their seats. So, what do you do with that? Are they going through the wrong entrances? Are they getting jammed up in concourse lines? What does that look like? I think our goal and vision for the future, though, is just to continue to build out the technology. It is very new, but to get more of a holistic picture so that we can go from, like we do now, the time the doors open until the end of the game, and give that holistic experience and view to our partners. And
so part of this is just to help a team understand how their stadium is operating in real time to make it a more pleasant experience.
I mean, that's really what the goal of all of this is. I think on the team side, we're obviously working a lot with sponsorship folks, but our main partners are on the data and analytics side, and their goal is to be able to help out the organization better the fan experience. If every team has a better idea of who is in their venue from a demographic perspective, you can better the experience for that fan. You can target with music, you can target with the entertainment, you can even change up the advertisement just to make it more applicable to who is actually in the venue. And I think that teams are doing a disservice to their fans if they don't know who they are and they're guessing. And don't know how to speak to them. It's really interesting. Rachel Goodger is the Chief Revenue Officer of CrowdIQ. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, Bram. On the next Future Sport podcast, peer-to-peer betting is growing. Media and advertising industry, which has done a really good job of marketing the sport product to the casual bettor in the U.S. And I think that they've done a much better job of that and marketing that to retail than they do internationally, right? So I think that is also a driving factor of things such as like same-game parlays. That's Varun Sudhakar, CEO of BetDex, who is helping build a modern peer-to-peer market powered on the blockchain. That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein.